Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie is expecting samples sent to the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency to be tested for the highly contagious UK variant of COVID-19 will return more positive results. However, Dr. Bisesa McKenzie says while it is likely that a variant of COVID-19 is present in the population, she doesn't believe, though, that it has contributed to the current surge in cases. Now, last month, 4 of the travelers on the last British flight to the island tested positive for the variant. Dr. Bisesa McKenzie, who was speaking on the morning agenda on Wednesday, says there is the possibility that other travelers could have brought the variant in prior to the ban on UK flights.
But we're not seeing the large numbers and large clusters that we would expect with a highly transmissible variant. So while I do believe that it is present and that we will get back some positive saying yes, I'm not sure, and I wait on the information, but the pattern of spread that we're seeing so far is not suggestive. But I think that there are various things that are contributing.
Dr. Bisesa McKenzie says it will take some time before the results from the samples are received by the Jamaican government due to limited flights from Trinidad. There are mixed reactions from stakeholders regarding the government's decision to impose tighter curfew orders to reduce the spread of COVID-19. The Prime Minister announced the new measures in Parliament on Tuesday. Details in this report.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced new curfew orders for all parishes effective 8 o'clock tonight. This is in response to the rapidly rising COVID-19 cases. 403 cases of the virus were confirmed yesterday, the single largest daily tally since March of last year. And with 3 of the country's largest hospitals now at 90% capacity, one medical practitioner says the move taken by the government is a step in the right direction.
We can't keep on doing a steady lockdown completely, but we have to ease, and it's like an ebb and flow. You have to ease and restrict the movement of the people, and as such the economy will be affected, but that has to be the way forward.
Dr. Alfred Dawes argues that while the number of cases has been quite alarming over the past few days, the number of hospitalization is of greater concern. Dr. Dawes is urging persons to obey the new measures.
The indicators are showing that the hospitalization rates are up from my experience of my colleagues in the hospitals. They're saying that people are sicker now. So we definitely have to support the Prime Minister's move at this point in time.
The new curfew, which runs from 8 p.m. tonight to 5 a.m. tomorrow, means businesses would have to close 2 hours earlier. But economist Dennis Chung remains adamant that tighter curfew hours will not make much difference. He believes more emphasis should be placed on enforcing the protocols.
At the level of 600,000 people having it, 2 hours is not going to make a lot of difference, right? What we should be doing is looking at enforcement, because we have not been enforcing. There have been a whole lot of illegal parties and people have just been going about their business.
In the meantime, he's calling for more fines for persons who break the COVID-19 protocols.
What you do is that you ensure that the penalty and the fine is so significant that people are not going to risk it. That is how you police and enforce with limited resources, you know. So when you catch a man, right, and you say, listen, this man is paying $1 million, you know, right, and everybody knows that that man paying $1 million, they will not take the risk.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Jamaica recorded more than 200 confirmed COVID cases for the 6th consecutive day. This as 207 cases were confirmed by the Health Ministry on Tuesday, increasing the country's case count to 17,908. Their ages range from 2 days to 92 years. Kingston and St. Andrew recorded most of the cases with 72, followed by St. Catherine with 38, Manchester with 33. Meanwhile, COVID-19 has claimed 3 more lives, pushing the country's death toll to 362. The latest cases are a 76-year-old male from St. James, an 87-year-old male from St. Elizabeth, and a 70-year-old male also from St. Elizabeth. The Health Ministry says 171 cases remain hospitalized. 13 are critically ill. To news in the region, Barbados received 100,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine from India. The vaccine arrived at the Grantley Adams International Airport on Tuesday. An excited Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who was on hand with other members of her cabinet to welcome the arrival, revealed that the doses will be administered to 50,000 Barbadians, starting with frontline workers before this weekend. The Prime Minister told a virtual press briefing that her government expects to buy another 100,000 doses of the vaccine from India. Ms. Mottley also disclosed that Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who has worked closely with her in securing the vaccines, has agreed with her to share some of the vaccines with other Eastern Caribbean states. And back home, the government says it will be improving waste management across the island through the national program to dispose of tires in an environmentally friendly manner. The program is aimed at safely disposing millions of used tires generated in the country annually, usually stored at disposal sites. End-of-life tires are those that could not or were not reused for their originally intended purpose and were not retreaded. Last December, Environment Minister PEARNEL Charles Jr. said 2 million tires would have been removed from the Riverton disposal site during the first phase of the program. Now, speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, he gave an update.
The Memorandum of Understanding is being reviewed by the Attorney General's chambers, and it is expected to be advanced within the first half of the financial year.
Meanwhile, the Environment Minister says the government is also committed to reducing plastic pollution that should be. Mr. Charles Jr. says the issue of plastic pollution is taking center stage again, especially with the increased use of masks and gloves because of COVID-19.
Because of the non-biodegradable character of plastics, simply disposing of these types of waste at our disposal sites is not a preferred solution, particularly because it can take thousands, sometimes millions of years for plastics to degrade. And burning the plastics release toxic gases which negatively impact public health and climate change.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Relax the rules until you fix the roads. That call from taxi operators in a rural St. Catherine community as bad roads make it harder for them to earn a living. KRISTA Campbell has their story.
It's a bumpy ride, to say the least, to get to the rural St. Catherine community of TROJA. But every day, taxi operators have to do it to make a living. However, they say they're fed up with how much it is costing them.
Most I carry them right here, sir. Some of them they're not even on the road 6 months good. Most of them change at least 12 parts. And parts is so expensive these days, so you're not even getting genuine parts. Buy 2 tools, you run on the road, run 2 cheap, you collect $200, $150. You have to spend back thousands. You're not even involved mechanical fees yet.
$200 to $250 for a 20-minute now turned to a 1-hour trip between communities like Facey, Riversdale, TROJA, and Jonquil Spring. On this trip, taxi operator Dwayne Edwards spends much more than he earns, $2,400 on car parts. He says within another 2 to 3 weeks, he will be buying car parts again. His colleague confirms.
As you fix something this week, next week you jump out back. Because some of the time some patrol just pop up and you're invisible, you know. You have some invisible patrol. You did it today and tomorrow you get a message, so you have to just go for drive on the road.
I'm a farmer. Alright, but I plant cabbage, tomato, sweet pepper, and I have to transport my thing. The money that I get from doing that, I can't just take go buy tire. nothing wrong with the tire, it's a baby. It's not like you got 1,000, instead of you're going to blow out, but they still want to take away the vehicle.
He's referring to the Island Traffic Authority, which determines whether a vehicle is fit enough to be on the road.
If you hear the examiner come right now, all our way have to leave the road. Everyone away. Because if examiner come and rock with steering, so license plate gone. And our next set of money that again.
Taxi operators in TROJA want the road rules to be relaxed until the authorities adequately address the poor state of the roads across the island, or at the very least, in their area. In the meantime, one operator says he's found an alternative means of earning.
In Jamaica, you have to drive in and out. You can't drive straight. You have to sight a patrol. You have to create a road for yourself. You understand what I say? If you follow the road, every minute you have to change parts. Right now, I park my car on the road around this and jump in on my friend's car. And some clothes me there, I go and juggle.
Member of Parliament for St. Catherine North East, Kerencia Morrison, says she's been making representation and the road should be fixed at least in the short term. KRISTA Campbell, TVJ News.
From St. Catherine to Kingston, we need better roads. That was the highlight of the recent Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation meeting on Tuesday. Codian Barrett has that story.
Members of the KSAMC pointed to what they describe as poor roadwork and budgeting done by other agencies compared with work done by municipal corporations across the country.
When we see that we are constantly patching a particular road only for it to go back to the state it was prior, sometimes in 4 or 5 months, we don't feel good, Your Worship, because that is basically funds that could have been better spent.
The city engineer's department went out to check the road that we did over the last 2 years to see how they stood up under the heavy rains. And the report that we got back from the city engineer's department, and I'm pretty sure most of you would have your own little assessment within your division based on the roads that you did. The report is that generally the roads stood up.
Councillor for the Whitfield Town Division, Eugene Kelly, proposed a resolution to seek funding through the Equalization Fund.
When funds are used for constructing, repairing of roads, better value for money is received at the parochial level than at any other level in the country. These roads will be repaired properly for $17 million, and we know, Your Worship, if it was another national entity, they would be putting something for $80 and $100 million, Your Worship.
Councillor for the Trafalgar Division, KARI Douglas, agreed with Mr. Kelly, stating that more resources should be given to municipal corporations across the island to fix deteriorating roads.
Chairman, I'm encouraging all of my colleagues to support Councillor Kelly's application to access this grant through that fund, and I know that we also all support his call on the government to protect our PRF funds that councillors have access to repair parochial roads that we're called upon so frequently to do with minimum resources.
The resolution will be sent to local Minister Desmond McKenzie for approval and support. Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
To other news now, Supreme Ventures has acquired a majority stake in microlending entity Michaela Financial Services. The acquisition was made through the gaming company's fintech arm. DASHAN HENDRICKS reports.
The deal announced late last week sees Supreme Ventures taking a 51% stake in Kingston-based Michaela Financial Services.
This is another move in our expansion strategy, which has expanded beyond just the gaming market. Supreme is now making headway into other growth industries with significant potential to meet our ever-growing needs and of our broad customer base.
The value of the acquisition was not disclosed, but Supreme Ventures is hoping that through its network of more than 1,000 agents selling its products across the country, it can leverage its reach to grow Michaela into a force in the microfinance sector.
One of the sort of immediate benefits of the transaction is that we would be able to offer Michaela's services across the SVL group. So pretty soon you're going to see different offerings incorporating Michaela into the SBL family. So it means greater product access for Michaela to a larger group of customers.
He said that will come with more innovative products, not just loans, and for Michaela, provide financing to grow beyond the 7 branch networks it now has.
Over time, we have not been able to fund them the way we ought to. And now with this partnership, this winning mix, trust me, we'll be able to keep them right here. They won't be going anywhere else. We'll be able to keep them right here.
For the Business Day, I am DASHAN HENDRICKS.
In news overseas, in the United States, the House impeachment managers have begun their 2-day presentation in the case against former U.S. President Donald Trump. They are looking to convince skeptical Republican senators that the former president was responsible for the deadly January 6 riot at the U.S. Capitol.
The Senate will convene as a court of impeachment.
The second impeachment trial of Donald Trump opening with an emotional appeal from lead impeachment manager Jamie Raskin to lawmakers who shared his experience at the Capitol on January 6th.
This cannot be the future of America. We cannot have presidents inciting and mobilizing mob violence against our government.
House impeachment managers pre-butting the argument by the former president's legal team that the trial isn't constitutional because Trump has left the White House.
Their argument is that if you commit an impeachable offense in your last few weeks in office, you do it with constitutional impunity. You get away with it.
The Trump defense team in a rambling presentation, among other things, accusing the Democrats of political games.
We are really here because the majority in the House of Representatives does not want to face Donald Trump as a political rival in the future.
Senate Democrats voted to move forward with the trial, joined by 6 Republicans, adding Bill Cassidy of Louisiana.
If I'm an impartial juror, and one side's doing a great job, and the other side's doing a terrible job on the issue at hand, as an impartial juror, I'm going to vote for the side that did the good job.
6, still well short of the at least 17 Republicans the impeachment managers need to vote to convict. Today, the clock starts for them to make their case.
There cannot be unity without accountability.
And here's Shamela Pullen with a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we'll look at testing for COVID-19.
Well, nosebleeds can range from just a few specks of blood on tissue to actual torrential bleeding coming down the front of the nose and the back of the throat. Now, in the vast majority of cases, though, if it does occur from swabbing, then it is usually very mild. And what we would recommend is that if we have to swab somebody who has a tendency to get nosebleeds, then we observe the patient afterwards for a little while just to make sure they don't have any bleeding.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Stay at least 6 feet away from people. Wear a face mask around others. Avoid sharing towels, dishes, and glasses. And ensure that frequently touched surfaces are cleaned and disinfected daily.
To news in sports, Jamaica's rugby team remains 20th in the world in the February edition of the International Rugby League World Rankings. The February rankings also have Jamaica second in the Americas behind the United States, who are 18th in the world. The Reggae Warriors remain number 1 in the Caribbean. The top 10 ranked teams in the world are New Zealand, Australia, England, Tonga, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, France, Scotland and Lebanon. Jamaica will be making their debut in the Rugby League World Cup in October in England. Jamaica have been drawn in Group C of the World Cup and will face New Zealand, Ireland and Lebanon. The Reggae Warriors qualified for the World Cup after winning the 2018 America's Championship. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and the production teams, have a good afternoon.